everybody. Thank you so much for being here. I am so excited. I'm always thrilled when technology works because sometimes it doesn't. So how are you guys? Where are you from? Why don't you type in the chat box and let us know where you're from so we can, oh my God, it's like a ticker tape. I wanted to say hello to you guys individually, but if you knew how fast this was going, Ontario, Canada, Temecula, it's Martha, Adrian, it's just so fast. Hello. People have actually met on some of my webinars and have forged friendships based on geography. So that's why we like to ask you guys where you're from. But there's so many of you. And I'm so excited to get started with the cooking demo that we're going to be showing you tonight. I really want to welcome you to this webinar. I think you're going to enjoy it. We are going to do some of my very favorite recipes. The cooking part is pre-recorded. This is live. This is me right now. And I'm going to come back after the cooking segment to answer any questions you have, either about the recipes that you saw or about just navigating the stress of the holidays or the holidays in general. I'll tell you a little bit about the recipes that we're making because they really are some of my favorites. And it's really what I'm making for Thanksgiving. We did a test meal. And of course, my husband Charles and I loved it. Even little Bailey, the dog, loved it. But we tested it on friends who ate this way and on what I call the others, people that don't eat this way. And we got unanimous thumbs up. It may look like it's a complicated recipe because we're stuffing a squash. If that's too daunting for you, just make the filling, just make the squash and bake it casserole style. It's just as delicious. And if you're serving a large crowd, that might actually be easier than stuffing individual squashes. But it's so pretty when you do the presentation like that. People seem to really like it. And don't stress about it. Do everything the day before. That is the best way to navigate these holidays is don't wait until Thanksgiving morning to cook these recipes. Things like the wild rice can be cooked 1 or 2 days in advance. The squash can be cooked 1 or 2 days in advance. The stuffing can be made in advance so that all you have to do on Thanksgiving Day is put it in the oven and bake it. The relish can be made at least a day in advance, as can all the components for the dessert. You probably want to do the vegetables fresh that day, but they only take about 15 minutes. So before we get started with the cooking demo, I would love to do a little poll or a little survey. So let me see if I can get the slides to come up. I believe Toby is helping me with this.
Yes, 1 second. I'm just going to click publish.
Thank you. So look at all these places you guys are from. Hi, Angela. Corona, California. That's not too, if any of you live anywhere near the Coachella Valley, the desert, please come to our meetups. We have them once a month. This Sunday is our pre-Thanksgiving meetup. We have it at the Cathedral City Library. And if you go to meetup.com, Healthy Living with Chef AJ, even if you don't live locally, we've had people come in from Arizona, from Las Vegas, from San Juan Capistrano. So we would love to see you. And these are once a month. Cheryl, will the text of the recipes be available or should we take notes? I always think it's a good idea to take notes, Cheryl, but you stay till the end and you will get a PDF, a very beautiful PDF of the recipes, the written recipes. You will get them. Sarah's watching at Melanie's house. Aunt Melanie, I miss you guys so much. I miss my LA people. Okay. If you live locally, Steve is from Palm Desert. I'm going to be on the Desert tonight doing a cooking demo at 6:45 p.m. So if you get local television in the desert, that's CBS at 6:45. I'm more nervous about doing this webinar than I was doing the TV show earlier today. So tell me when you're ready, Toby. Thanks so much for having me. Okay. Whenever.
So we've received a ton of responses already for the poll. So thank you so much for that. And I think AJ, you had an incredible story to share on this as well.
It's funny, Toby, because I can't see the slide that has the poll on it. Just so you know. So I'm only.
It's not a slide. Everyone sees it in the chat box. So
I see.
The vote in the chat box, just vote.
Great. Well, yeah. So we're gonna reveal the results of the poll at the end. I can't see the slide, but what you guys are seeing is who's worried or who's stressed about the holidays. I know that even for myself, even being prepared, the holiday season seems to bring a new level of stress and anxiety to my life. I once heard a comedian say that Christmas was a time of year where we spend money we don't have on people we don't like for things we don't need. So that's not everybody's interpretation of Christmas, but I know that for some people, the holidays can be stressful. And what I hope to do for those of you that said they were is to give you some strategies so that this year can be a little calmer and a little bit more peaceful. And I think having the food prepared in advance the way that you want it, it's going to really help dial down any stress you may have around the holidays, the eating, people maybe that are eating different, families that maybe you don't get along with so well. So Steve from Palm Desert, this is so cool. Do we start the cooking demo now, Toby, or do?
Yes, so the poll will be up even as the cooking demo is running. So we'll be back right afterwards. And as AJ said, there will be the download available for recipes, but it's always great to take notes. So here we go. It should load.
Happy holidays and welcome to my kitchen. I'm Chef AJ and I'm going to show you exactly what I'm going to be making for my family's Thanksgiving dinner. And I sure hope you'll enjoy these recipes because they're not only vegan, they're whole food plant-based. They contain absolutely no oil or sugar or salt. As a matter of fact, they're also gluten-free and flour-free, but don't let that fool you. They are absolutely delicious, they're healthy, and they're easy to make. There's no reason you have to only eat these recipes during the holidays, but they're perfect for Thanksgiving, Christmas, really any time of year if you can find the ingredients. I'm going to be making a stuffed acorn squash, and the stuffing is made out of wild rice, apples, and cherries. I'm also going to be making a cranberry relish to go with it, and a caramelized sweet potato mousse with a pear whip, and I'm going to configure a few of the ingredients into a brand new dessert, which I call Holiday Parfait. So let's get cooking. I've already got my pan heating up. I am using a nonstick Milthy 10-inch pan. I've already started to heat it up. You know, I don't use any oil. You don't need oil to cook or even to caramelize onions, but you know it's ready when you take water and you drop it like that, and you can see these little balls dancing around. That's how you know your pan is ready. Now don't worry, you're going to get all the written recipes if you watch this webinar, so I'm not going to say exactly the measurements of the ingredients because you'll get that in the recipe, but of course I'll tell you what they are. It's just sometimes I don't remember the exact measurements. So we're starting with something called mirepoix. This is a mixture of celery, onion, and carrot. You certainly could cut it up yourself, but I'm a little bit pressed for time, so it's very convenient that stores like Trader Joe's, Whole Foods, even the regular markets sell this. So I'm going to put it in my pan, and I don't need any oil. I don't need any liquid, as a matter of fact. But if it starts to stick, what I'll do is I'll add a little bit of water. You could also use salt-free vegetable broth if you want. But I find that as long as your recipes have flavor in them, you don't really need the broth. You know, it's like $3 a box, sometimes more, and water's free. And as long as you know how to spice your food with herbs and spices, you don't need it at all. This is a nonstick pan. If you're not comfortable using a nonstick pan, use whatever pan you like. I always say use the best pan you can afford. A lot of people like the waterless cookware. Some people like the scan pan, the green pan, the ceramic pan. If it were to start to stick, you can just add a little bit of water or your broth and move it around. And this should take probably 10 minutes to cook down, maybe 15 at the most. So I'm going to talk about the other ingredients that go in this dish. Instead of bread or stuffing, I am using wild rice. Wild rice is one of my favorite grains. It's actually a grass. It's very toothsome. I love the taste. I love the texture. It's very nutty. And the way I cook it is in a pressure cooker. And all I do is put a 1-pound bag in with 4 cups of water, and I press the multi-grain button. It takes about 40 minutes. If you have a different way that you'd like to cook it, please feel free. You could also cook it in a rice cooker, and of course you could cook it on a stove, but it's very easy to cook it in a pressure cooker. And so I cook this in advance because it's really important that you have everything ready. Whatever recipe you're going to make, it makes it so much easier if you do what's called in French mise en place, everything in its place. Everything that I'm doing for this recipe is right within hand's reach, so I don't have to be going into cabinets and drawers. I have everything right there. So this will take a little bit longer. Also, what I did in advance is I cooked the squash. Now, I also use the pressure cooker to cook my squash. I have the 8-quart, and I put it in a basket, and it was just so easy to do it for about 10 minutes, and then I chilled it, and then I cut it in half. I find that squash is very difficult to cut, at least with my hand, and so by using the pressure cooker and then chilling it, it's very, very easy to do it that way. And also then it's ready, because after we make the stuffing, we are going to bake the squash for our dinner. So I'm going to be adding some garlic to this. You know, if you've watched any of my other cooking demonstrations, you know one of the things I say that in general in cooking, and especially in SOS-free cooking, everything starts with an onion, but garlic is also important. This is one of my favorite tools. You can find it in my Amazon store because it can chop the garlic really finely, just with a few pulls. You can do it left-handed or right-handed. And look how fine. I could never chop it that fine personally. So after the onion starts to cook, and you can see that it's getting a little bit brown, which is what I want, then I add the garlic. I don't add the garlic in the beginning because we don't want it to burn. And I am cooking this over high heat, mainly because I want it to be ready faster, but you could certainly cook it over medium. I wouldn't do it over low heat. So now I'm gonna add my garlic. You know what I say about garlic, is if a little is good, more is better. This tool makes it so easy. So I'll add the garlic. And I'm gonna be adding some apples to this, and the apple that I have chosen is something called the envy apple. I think they call it that because it's literally the envy of all the other apples because it's so good. I think it's a cross between a Gala and one other apple. Whatever apple you use, I recommend a sweeter variety, not so much a green one in this recipe. But you could probably use a yellow, like a Jana Gold, or one of those opal apples will be good. And I shredded the apples. If you see right there, there's a little grater. And so I'm using shredded apples, but if you prefer to cube them, you can. So this is getting very close to being ready. The carrots are still a little bit hard, so we want to get those softened, but they will soften up in the oven. I'm going to add my poultry seasoning to this. That's a terrible name for a seasoning that does not have any poultry, but I guess it's often used in poultry dishes. It's basically thyme and oregano, marjoram, celery seed. So it's a very good spice, but if you don't like this spice, don't use it or use a different one. So I'm just gonna roll that around a little bit more. And again, every now and then, I add the water, and it doesn't burn, it doesn't stick. All right. And this is a very traditional kind of flavoring for stuffing. Even people that make bread stuffing, it often starts with onion, carrot, celery, also known as mirepoix, and it often has the spice called poultry seasoning. So you can see that when I add the water, it gets the onion nice and brown like I want. Perfect. So my carrot is getting soft now. So now I'm going to add my wild rice, which has been cooked. I'm going to add it to the pan. Always make sure when you cook grains, batch cook them. Then you can eat some, you can freeze some. So I'm going to mix in the wild rice. And I suppose if you didn't like wild rice, I encourage you to try it. You could use just a regular brown rice if you wanted, even a basmati. And you could probably even use quinoa. I'm just going to turn this down a little bit now. Oops, I accidentally turned it off. There we go. All right. And I wish you guys could smell this. It not only looks good, but it smells good. I am going to turn the heat off now, and I'm going to stir in the rest of my ingredients, which are the grated apples. Whoa, so much for trying to stay neat. I would love to pick those apples up, but I don't want to burn myself. And this is optional. I know that some people struggle with having dried fruit in the house because it's just like little candies to them. You know, it's so much more calorically dense than fresh fruit. It's about 1,300 calories a pound instead of the usual 200 to 300. But it is a holiday, so we're going to add it. And we're going to add some dried cherries. These have no sugar, and these are also unsulfured. And this will just make it taste really yummy. You know, you could probably use frozen cherries that have been defrosted and cut in half or fourths if you didn't want to get the dried. And then calls for Italian parsley. Believe it or not, the store was out of it. This is really just for greens. So what I did is I used arugula and I chopped it in my little chopper. So I'm going to add that now. And I'm going to bring the pan over here. Now, if for some reason you didn't want to bake it in the squash, you could just bake it in, say, a Pyrex for 30 minutes. at about 350 and serve it as stuffing. See, the green is really more just to look pretty. I think it will change the flavor a little bit because I used arugula. Arugula is bitter, not everyone likes it, but I wanted you guys to see what it was supposed to look like. Oh, this smells amazing. A lot of times when I present at conferences, they will make this dish in my honor because they know it's one of my recipes from my book, The Secrets to Ultimate Weight Loss. So I've got everything mixed in, and now I'm going to stuff my squash. So I recommend cooking on something called a Silpat or a nonstick silicone baking mat. It just makes cleanup easier. That way you don't have to get foil, you don't have to waste parchment paper each time. It's much more environmentally friendly. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my squash on my Silpat, and then I'm going to stuff it. Now obviously this is going to make more than 3, but we're only 2 people here, and so we're just making our portion right now, and then we will bake this stuffing up. So let's stuff it with the stuffing. Oh, it's so pretty. And again, try to get as much stuffing in as you can, and also serve more stuffing on the side, because you want to have your ratio of squash to stuffing be favorable. Sometimes there's a deeper well depending on the size of your acorn squash. You know, you could use kabocha. Kabocha is a very sweet squash. It's delicious, so I like it for other reasons, but it would work. So would delicata or butternut. The way that I cook my squash in the pressure cooker is I just put about a cup or 2 of water in the bottom, then I put in the basket, and then like I said, 8 to 10 minutes till soft, and then I refrigerate it. And the liquid from cooking the acorn or butternut squash, it's delicious. It's like nectar. So we're just going to put that in, and then I'm going to cook it at 350 degrees for about 30 minutes. It's so pretty, and it just makes me think of fall, and it's very elegant as well. So now I'm going to put this in my oven on to the next recipes. And again, I am not going to throw this out, guys. This is going to be baked, and it's going to be a side dish. You know, if you didn't want to stuff the squash but you wanted the flavor, you could just get cubes of squash. You can buy them frozen in the refrigerated section of butternut squash. I've seen it, acorn, even kabocha, so it could be more like a casserole, but it's fun to stuff them. So what goes with a stuffed squash better than a cranberry relish? And I'm going to show you how to make my cranberry relish because it's using pears. So in my first book on processed, I had a delicious recipe for a raw, meaning uncooked cranberry relish that had no added sugar. It was made with the fruit, the whole fruit, and nothing but the whole fruit. But as I continue my work, especially with people that suffer from food addictions or trying to lose weight, I realized that for some people, dates can be a problem because when they buy the dates for the recipe, they end up going in their mouth instead. Hence the saying, if it's in your house, it's in your mouth. And remember, while dates are a whole natural food full of fiber and water, vitamins, minerals, phytochemicals, antioxidants, and micronutrients, they're still pretty calorically dense, or as I say to the right of the red line, they're about 1,300 calories a pound, whereas whole fruit is about 200, maybe 300 calories a pound. And believe it or not, I have now met 3 people in my travels that are actually allergic to dates. So what we're going to do is we're going to use pears instead. You know, a traditional cranberry relish, whether you make a recipe or buy it from a can, has a ton of sugar, white sugar, often a cup or more, and you got to cook it on the stove. This literally just takes seconds. So I'm going to start with a bag of organic cranberries. They have nothing in them but cranberries. Actually, you know what? I think I'm going to hold 3 aside as a garnish now that I think of it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to just pulse it in the food processor. I don't want to puree it, but I want to break those down. And so now I'm going to add 2 oranges. These are navel oranges that I've already peeled. And again, anything you can do in advance is going to be helpful. And of course, this will be only as sweet as your oranges are sweet, but the oranges have been pretty good this time of year. So 2 whole oranges and the zest from those oranges. I'm going to show you a couple of tools that I like using for zesting in just a moment. Now, right now, this won't be very sweet. So what I like to use for zesting is this little tool called a zester. You kind of like shave the outside of the orange part. You don't want to get to the white part. That's called the pith, and it's bitter. Some people prefer this tool called a microplane, where you sort of grate it, but I like the long segments or shreds of the orange better than the little ones. This is good for grating nutmeg though. And then I have this tool that literally cost me 99 cents for Pampered Chef that is really great for segmenting and peeling oranges. So now I'm going to add my pears, but the trick is that these pears are roasted. And so what that does is it brings out the natural sugars, the natural sweetness, it caramelizes them, and so then you don't have to use dates at all, let alone a lot of dates. So now I'm going to add my pears for sweetness. And we have this beautiful relish. Now you can see how thick it is, but sometimes people's oranges are a little bit more juicy, and for some reason they maybe have pureed it too much in the food processor. So if you want to thicken it, you can just sprinkle a few chia seeds. You might want to go with the white ones because then it won't show up in a color, but I only have the dark ones. And this will make it really, really thick and delicious. So let me take it out of there. Oh, this is so good. Look at how beautiful this is. And it's such a nice accompaniment for the squash, but it's also a nice accompaniment for dessert. And what I mean by that, if you've ever made banana ice cream in a Champion juicer or a Vitamix or a Blendtec or any kind of Yonanas machine, this is delicious on banana ice cream, and it's also delicious on morning oatmeal. My husband loves to put this on his oatmeal. He loves relish so much he'll eat it by himself. This beep is telling me the oven's preheating. Let me show you a trick. So you can see how there's a lot of relish left in here, kind of stuck on the blade. You might have seen me do this before, but the way to get it off is you put the food processor on. You just turn it on for 1 second, and now my blade is completely clean and easy to get all the extra goodness off. So there we have this beautiful, beautiful cran. You might even like this better than the one that's sweetened with dates. And I just roasted my pears in the oven on a Silpat. But if you have one of those Crispies trays, you could use it. You could probably even air fry them if you like. And I like to use the jarred pears, and when we come to a future recipe in this webinar, I'm going to explain why I prefer them, because it's really for consistency. So I'm not going to clean my food processor as I go on to the next recipe, because it's also a dessert recipe, and it'll just be fine to do that. But before I go on to the next 2 dessert recipes, I want to do another side dish, and these are the balsamic Dijon glazed Brussels sprouts, but I'm doing them a little bit different now. It's much easier thanks to my good friend and the moderator of the Feel Fabulous Over 40 group and the Ultimate Weight Loss group, Zena. She served these at a dinner that we co-hosted for Dr. McDougall, and they were absolutely delicious. So the balsamic Dijon glazed Brussels sprouts are so yummy, even for breakfast. I never even liked Brussels sprouts until Dr. Roy Artal, who was my plant-based doctor when I lived in Los Angeles, came on my television show, Healthy Living with Chef AJ, and showed me how to do them. You basically are roasting Brussels sprouts in the oven, which is fine. We were doing it on a Silpat, and it was taking about 45 minutes, because sometimes Brussels sprouts are really thick and they're big, and that's a long time. Plus, we were putting the marinade, the balsamic vinegar and the mustard on them, and it was really kind of getting the Silpat like really difficult to clean. Of course, I don't want to use parchment paper because that's very wasteful. So the brilliant Zena figured out that you could just take a bag of frozen Brussels sprouts. I love these baby Brussels sprouts from Trader Joe's, but I bet you can get them other places. Defrost it, I put it on a plate overnight, and then just stick it in your air fryer for about 15 minutes. And if you don't have an air fryer, then do it in the oven at the same temperature, 400 degrees. This is 1 pound here, and then glaze them afterwards. And because we're using the baby Brussels sprouts and the frozen ones, they're so tender, we don't have to, chew them through. So we're gonna just put them over here in the air fryer. If you wanna get a shot here, you can. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to set it to 400 degrees, and it's already set for 15 minutes. And then when it comes out, I am going to glaze it. And because it's a holiday, instead of using the plain balsamic, I'm going to get a little bit fancy here and use a fig balsamic, but you can use any kind you want. So I'm going to go on to the next recipe, and this is a recipe that I call sweet potato mousse with caramelized apples, but I'm not going to do the apples today. Again, I'm going back to the pears that I had mentioned because they're really, really good in here. So I'm using a lot of pears, so hopefully you like pears. If not, then I guess you could substitute dates or possibly banana for some of these recipes. So I love this jarred pears from Trader Joe's. It's in just natural juice. There's no sugar. What I love about it is it's in glass, that I don't feel so bad because I'm throwing away plastic, because trust me, I reuse these jars. When I give neighbors and friends food like leftover soup or barefoot dressing, these jars are just so perfect because when you put them in the dishwasher, the label comes off. What I also like about jarred pears, or it could be canned pears, I'm not as crazy about using cans, but almost every store I've been to, not just the health food stores, but every store I have seen pears in their own juice in a can. What I like about them is they're very sweet, they're consistent. When I have to use fresh pears, sometimes they are so hard I can't make these recipes work, and then I've got to roast them in the oven. That's an extra step. So for this recipe, for the mousse, I have roasted my sweet potato. I'm using the traditional orange that most people can get anywhere. These are often called the garnet yams. And so I roast them. Now remember, in a dessert recipe, you want to roast them. If you're just eating them as a snack or as a savory dish, it's fine if you cook them by cooking them in a pressure cooker or even microwaving them. But when you're doing a dessert recipe, you really do want to roast, because then it will make it sweeter and bring out the sugars. So I'm going to be putting this in my food processor with my pears. I'm going to puree it a little bit first before I add those pears, just to get it going. And then I'm going to add my sweetness from my pears and my seasonings. I'm using the gingerbread spice from Local Spicery. It's just one of my favorites, but you could use cinnamon. I'm going to puree that. Now, one thing I'm going to add, this is optional but good, is a teaspoon of the wild vanilla powder. It has nothing in it but vanilla. Extracts are interesting because they either have one of two things that I'm not allowed to use when I'm a guest chef at True North. They either have glycerin, which is sugar, or alcohol, neither of which are allowed. So the vanilla bean is the best, and a little does go a long way with the vanilla powder. Make sure you get a brand that doesn't have any added fillers or sugar, and it will last because you're not going to use that much. But if you can add it, it really does make a difference. So we're going to puree some more. And this is our mousse. It's okay that there was a little cranberry relish in there. Nobody needs to know. Probably doing this at home. Okay, those little dark spots are just the pears. I probably roasted them a little bit long, but if that visually bothers you, you could always just cut them out. So there is our beautiful mousse. And I'm going to put it over here for now, and I'm going to make the pear whip, which is going to be our whipped cream for the mousse. So I'm putting in the entire jar. This jar was 25 ounces. I should probably measure that for people that don't have this. Let's see, it's probably 2 cups of pears. I'll let you know. I'm just thinking, I'm guessing it's 2 cups, but let's see. Maybe more. 1, yeah. 1, maybe a little bit over 2, 2.5, but don't worry, it doesn't have to be exact, of my pears. And then to that, I'm going to add my oats, my gluten-free oats. And of course, to whipped cream, I'm going to add more vanilla powder. Now, If you wanted it thicker, I would recommend chia seeds, but for this, it definitely should be white because it'll turn into a black whipped cream otherwise. So this is a enlightened version of the recipe from Unprocessed that made a whipped cream, but it used a lot of nuts, a lot of cashews, and this tastes just as good. Remember, oats are about 20% fat, so you'll still get that creaminess and mouthfeel. So now I'm gonna blend it together. And there we have it. This tastes so good. And again, if you want it thicker, you're going to need to add those white chia seeds. The vanilla powder, you know, it's brown. It does darken it a little bit, just so you know. Okay, so now, what I thought I would do while we're waiting for all the other recipes to finish is show you how I'm gonna plate this dessert. So, in my book, The Secrets to Ultimate Weight Loss, the recipe was for the sweet potato mousse with caramelized apples on top, which is delicious. But I thought, since we were making relish anyway, cranberry relish, why not make a parfait for dessert? Parfait literally means perfect in French, and I think this is the perfect holiday dessert. It's not too heavy, there's not a lot of nuts or, you know, oil to really make you feel heavy. There's no refined sugar, there's no flour, so it's gonna be decadent, but it's also gonna be delicious. So what I'd like to do is first get yourself pretty glasses, whatever that means to you. I think these are technically brandy snifters, but any kind of see-through pretty glass. And so what we're going to do is we are going to start with a layer of the mousse. I think I'll make 2 of these because there's 2 of us here right now. There'll be more for the holidays. So let's see. Layer. So I got 3 scoops of the mousse. And we just kind of get it to go down. So I'm just going to spread this down to make a nice layer. You know, this could also be turned into a pie. I have a recipe on YouTube called butterscotch pie. You could use this filling. And now I'm going to take my delicious cranberry relish and put that on top. Maybe not quite as much, maybe 1.5 scoops. Then, oh boy, this is gonna be delicious, guys. I haven't tasted this, but see, all my recipes I figure out in my head, and I just know. You know, I was a pastry chef, executive vegan pastry chef at Sante Restaurant for 5 years, and I kind of never made a bad dessert. So there we go, our second layer. And then, I think I'm gonna put just a little bit of whipped cream in between. Why not? Oh boy, this is gonna be good. You can do this with peaches. The thing about peaches is they're not quite as sweet as pears. I've done peach whip before when I've done apple desserts. Like I said, they're not as sweet as pears, and they tend to be a little bit more liquidy, so I've had to add more of the oats to get it to thicken up. But this is pretty thick considering there was nothing added. So now we're going to add the next layer, which again is going to be the mousse. You know, this honestly, I think we're gonna have company to eat these things that we're making right now, but I think that this would actually feed 2 people, one of these. So next time I do this, or when I actually do this for the holiday, I'm just gonna get some smaller glasses. But it's fun having couples share, you know? Husband and wife, there we go. And we still have plenty of the cranberry relish to serve with the entree. So another layer. Oh, I love layered desserts. And if I did I could do a streusel topping with, say, for example, that I've made with dates and oats and cinnamon or nutmeg. Oh my God, that's looking amazing. Let's just put a little bit of this on top just for color. Whoa. I mean, there's no right or wrong way to layer the dessert, you know? If you like more relish, put more relish. Oh boy, this is gonna be decadent. And of course, Let's end with whipped cream. Ooh, baby. Oh, yeah. Oh, baby. I just want to eat this right now, but it's not dinner time yet. Oh, lots of whipped cream. You know, I have a trifle bowl. It could be there. So I thought about maybe garnishing it with some cinnamon. But then I thought, you know what would be really fun is I have these little potatoes, these purple potatoes from Penzeys. They're a lot of fun, and I often use them on top of ice cream, and I thought it would just look really, everything tastes better in purple. So I'm gonna just sprinkle these on top, and I'm gonna take a cranberry. Look at that. Now tell me that your regular people, your regular guests wouldn't eat this. Does this not look delicious, guys? I promise you. Is I will put this in the oven at the same temperature, and I will bake it. And you can see it kind of looks like stuffing. There we go. So we will bake that up, and it will get a little bit crispy on top the way I like it, and it'll be a terrific side dish. As pretty as it is delicious. You can always move these around in the middle, but you can see how nicely they're browning. Let's just give it 2 more minutes. That's what it's supposed to be. Oh, now that's looking real good, isn't it? So, now it does need a few more minutes, guys, but because we're actually not going to eat this right now, I want to plate it and show you what it's going to look like, because I can always reheat it in the oven later. So, you hungry, Charles?
Yes.
So what I'd do is I would have these on a plate for people. Don't use gloves. That's right. Where are my gloves? Here we go. I would have this on a much bigger platter, depending on the number of people I have. Or I would individually plate them. Okay. This one is exceptionally big and heavy. There we go. This one is the prettiest, so I'm going to put this on the plate. There we go. Yay, it's ready. I'm going to pour the Brussels sprouts in here. There we go. Now, these are delicious just like this. You don't even really need to put anything on them. They're so good like this. But if you want to follow the recipe, what you do is you take, whoops, came right out, some of the salt-free mustard. I don't even really need to measure. Got it all over my hand though. And I'm going to use the California balsamic vig. Usually I use the regular, but it's a holiday. So an equal amount of this nice thick syrupy reduced vinegar. Mix it up. Oh yeah, wow. Oh boy, why can't we have smell-o-vision? So have a nice serving of these on the side. Wow. Who needs oil or sugar or salt or animal products to make an unbelievably delicious and healthy holiday meal that your guests will love? I promise you. And then, of course, we need our relish. Nice scoop of that. Look at that. Whoa. And there you have it. A healthy, delicious, didn't take very long to make. I don't know how long we've been going, Charles. Not even an hour, I don't think. Holiday meal that you and your guests will love. So I hope you'll make these recipes. I hope you'll enjoy them. And I wish you and all your loved ones a very happy, healthy holiday season. I'm Chef AJ. Thanks so much for watching. Take care now.
Okay, I think this was it. So that was amazing. AJ, you're up.
All right. Well, according to the poll, 45% of you are confident and not worried at all about the holidays. 55% are worried. So that's really interesting. I think I'm in the worried 55%. Oh, guys, thank you so much for your kind comments about the cooking webinar. There were a lot of questions and they went by really fast. So what I did is I wrote them down. And at the end of this presentation, I'm going to answer all your cooking questions, all your ingredient questions, and all your equipment questions. But I hope you'll stay till the end because I have something I want to share with you, because especially for those of you that are at least a little bit worried about the holidays, because even if you're not worried, you know, sometimes one bite of food can send you down a path where you can become somebody that is worried about the holidays. Did you guys happen to know that 75% of the average annual weight gain occurs during the holiday season? It's hard to believe, but so many people, it actually can start as early as Halloween for some people. But that week between Thanksgiving, it's not a week, but it's the time between Thanksgiving and Christmas, but that week between Christmas and New Year's, a lot of people gain, believe it or not, 1 to 5 pounds. And that's weight that's not always easily taken off. And that's something we got to look out for, even if we're not worried about the holiday season, the extra weight gain that often does occur during that time of year for so many people. So why do you think the holidays are so dangerous? You know, it's not really surprising when you think about it, because all of the temptations that there are, all of the traditions around food, all the social pressures where you feel like you have to join in the feast, you know, you're being taken out of your safe environment. And sometimes your house, your home is being taken over by family members for long periods of time. And if you're anything like me, you might be vulnerable to relapsing. So the thing is, relapsing is really like a slippery slope. You know, for some people, one meal off plan, even one non-compliant dessert or dish can often lead to the next and the next and the next. You know, sometimes you feel, hey, it's the holidays. Let's celebrate. I deserve a treat. Or maybe you think you've got things under control enough that you can indulge. But let me tell you, in general, it is not really a good idea, because I've seen a lot happen during this time of year where people go down this road into a downward spiral, and sometimes they just don't bounce back. You know, once you're on the slope, let me read to you an email that was sent to us by one of the wonderful ladies in a Feel Fabulous group. She said, I was going really well for over 12 months. And then I bought a cake for my birthday, stupidly thinking I was finally in control of my eating. And I thought I would be able to handle having one piece. Does that sound familiar to any of you? She continues, I was going really well for over 12 months. But she was wrong, she said. She said it's now been 166 days of a downward spiral binge. And she went from 52 kilograms up to 59 kilograms. That was a 16-pound weight gain, 114 to 130, and she was struggling to get control of the reins. This is an actual email from someone in the group. So for those of us that struggle with excess weight or food addiction, or even just vulnerability to certain addictive foods like desserts, sugar, flour, you know, maybe alcohol, this is really a powerful reminder that we can't really completely get rid of our addictions. I think we can really just learn to manage them. But the last thing we want to do, especially this time of year when there is so much temptation everywhere we go, is to get back on that slope. In a minute, I'm going to share with you what I think is the most powerful way that I've found to be safe from that dreaded slope. And if you're already on it, how to stop that downward spiral. I want to share with you my 10 tips how to make it through the holidays. These are really practical tips that I think will help most people succeed. I know I've used them for myself for many years, and I teach them to my clients. I want you to be able to navigate the holidays without having the stress, especially if you were in the 55% of the poll. So my first tip is to control the food. And this is great advice for anyone that's wanting to be on a healthy eating path, especially one that wants to lose weight or recover from food addictions. The more you can control your food and be in control of your food, the easier it's going to be. So one tip I always tell people is eat at home. The food's going to be tastier. It's going to be more delicious, more plentiful. It's going to be cheaper. Always go to these holiday parties with a belly full of whole natural food. Make sure some starch, not just some celery or carrot sticks, but have something in your stomach. It is so much easier to make good food decisions when you're not hungry. That's why they tell you, all the experts, don't go grocery shopping when you're hungry. Do not go to a holiday party with your tank empty. Go with it full. You might get hungry again. You can always eat more. If you don't want to do that for whatever reason, bring your food with you. Now, maybe you're embarrassed to bring it to the holiday party. Always ask the host in advance, can you bring a dish to share? So it's something you can eat. Bring a lot for everybody. At the very least, have the food in your car. You can always excuse yourself saying, oh my gosh, I think I left my phone in my car. I think I left my lights out. But always have healthy food with you. And if you can, invite others to your home so that you really can be in control of the food and of the menu. And I recommend you guys do this all year round, not just at the holidays, but especially at the holidays where there's going to be more food than any other time of year, more tempting food that's very difficult to say no to. You know, willpower is only required when you have to make a decision. And when your tank is full and your belly is full of some beans and rice or sweet potatoes, it's going to be a lot easier to resist that tempting food. Never count on other people to have your food there for you. So my second tip, and this is just great advice anytime you go out, is to wear your best outfit, because then it's even harder to indulge. You know, I'm guilty of this. I live pretty much in LuLaRoe leggings or yoga pants because I'm very active doing yoga and things like that. And they're really comfortable. But the problem with elastic waistlines is you can gain 20, 30, even 40 pounds before you even feel it. So make sure that when you're going to these holiday events and holiday parties, not that you have to wear a tight outfit, but wear something fitted. Wear a fitted dress, a fitted skirt, a pair of jeans, not leggings, because then it's much harder to overeat because you're going to feel it if you've got a belt on or a nice outfit. And of course, when you look your best, you want to do your best. So that's another tip I have, especially for all you single ladies out there looking for companionship during the holidays. So wear your best outfit. Another tip I like to give my clients all year round is to get enough sleep. This is so overlooked in general for optimal health. Everybody's worried about diet and exercise, but the reality is sleep is one of the most important tenets for health, because if you don't get adequate sleep, you're not going to have the discipline to say no to unhealthy food, to alcohol, to that extra cup of coffee or any coffee in the morning. Sleep is so, so important. And I know that we want to spend extra time with our loved ones and stay late at parties, but the more you can keep your regular schedule during the holiday season, the better you're going to fare. So get enough sleep all year round, but particularly anytime you're stressed or during the holiday season. If that means leaving the holiday party a half hour early, so be it, because you will appreciate the fact that you did this in the morning when you don't feel sleep deprived, because it'll be so much easier. You won't have such a need for stimulants, coffee in the morning, and then alcohol or depressant at night to put you back to sleep. Really work on good sleep hygiene all year round, but especially during the holiday season. And don't worry, Santa's still going to come. So he knows when you're sleeping. So the next tip I have is to stay active. Not only keep all your regular routines, but your exercise routine in particular, especially if you already have one. Now, this isn't the time of year necessarily to start exercising if you've never exercised or to run a marathon. But exercise is so important, because you know what exercise does? We don't exercise to lose weight. There was an amazing article written in the Scientific American Journal, which basically said, it's called the exercise paradox, by the way, that exercise actually contributes very negligibly to weight loss. It's really the food. But what it does is it's really important for setting the tone for the day. It increases self-esteem. It increases willpower. When you exercise, especially first thing in the morning, it makes it so much easier to stick to a healthy eating plan. A lot of people do good all day and they can eat, carrot and celery sticks and blow it all with a 2,000 calorie binge after dinner. but you can't take back the effects of exercising. And that's really going to help keep you sane, keep you balanced, keep you calm, and keep your routine as much as possible. Don't throw exercise out the window. Don't be those people that go back to the gym on January 2nd. Whatever routine you have right now, keep it. Maybe even up it if you have time, but don't let it go. Please. It's so important this time of year. Exercise really is the most underutilized antidepressant and anti-anxiety medication there is. So my next tip is to eat slowly. And I recently interviewed a mindfulness expert named Dr. Judd Brewer. And he was talking about how when people actually pay attention, instead of eating while they're on their phone or driving in the car or watching television, they actually eat less food because they're paying attention to the food and how it tastes. And you're often satisfied with less, especially if you're eating something rich or hyper palatable. It's really those first few bites that are the most delicious. If you really pay attention, you'll notice that the satisfaction level actually kind of goes down the more you eat it. But not if you're eating quickly and not if you're not paying attention. So if you are going to indulge in something that's off your regular eating plan, do it slowly and really, really enjoy it. Also, wait at least 20 minutes to get more food. You can always go back. You've probably heard that it takes 20 minutes for your brain to tell your stomach you're full, but it's true. It really is true. If you don't believe me, try it yourself. It does take 20 minutes for those signals in the brain to send to the stomach to say, hey, you've eaten enough, stop. That's why eating slowly can be so helpful, because then you can enjoy that meal, and then 20 minutes you will get those satiety signals. But again, they come much more easily when you're eating a diet of whole natural food full of water and fiber. But do wait 20 minutes. You can just set your iPhone or your iWatch, whatever that thing is called, Apple Watch. You can always go back for more, but you can't uneat something that you ate already. Does that make sense? All right. So I recommend this all year round as well. I'm not a fan of stimulants like coffee or chocolate or depressants like alcohol or other types of drugs. But drink water or tea, particularly at the holiday party. You don't have to feel like an oddball because you're not drinking alcohol. You can put it in a wine glass, it can look just like a drink. But drink water or tea and have one in each glasses. And when I say tea, I mean herbal tea. Have a glass in each hand, preferably, because if your hands are occupied at a party, you're not even going to be able to go to the buffet and eat food. And by the way, usually there's buffets. Don't stand by the buffet. When you're going to eat, get your food, go somewhere else, talk to people somewhere else. The more you're around the food, the more you're going to be tempted to keep going back for seconds. But have a glass of water, sip it, herbal tea, something like that, club soda, Perrier. Nobody's going to care that you're not drinking alcohol, but have something in your hand at all times. Remember, your belly's already full by now, hopefully. Start with soup or salad. This is from the research of Dr. Barbara Rolls, who is I call her the mother of calorie density. She's done so much research on this subject. But if you are familiar at all with my work, anytime you eat food that has water and food that has fiber together, they create what's known as bulk. Bulk creates satiety, that feeling of fullness that tells you to stop eating. Soup and salad is primarily water and fiber. And research shows that any meal that you start with either or both of these, you're going to eat less calories, because what happens is you start filling up some space in the tank with these voluminous, high nutrient, calorie dilute foods. So it makes it harder to overeat on the other stuff. And if you just, look at restaurants, the way they serve, these things are always served as a first course anyway. So the more you can start meals with soup or salad, the fuller you're going to be. So you will be satisfied with less of the rich stuff that you may choose to indulge in. And this is a good tip just for eating healthfully in general, even when it's not the holiday season. Who was it? I think Voltaire, that said, don't let perfect be the enemy of the good. Even if you are what Dr. Doug Lisle calls a hyper-conscientious nutcase, this is not the time of year to aim for perfection, really. This will really help take the stress out of the holidays for you, because when I work with clients, this is not a time of year that I take on weight loss clients, by the way. But if I'm already working with a client, our goal is to get through the holiday season and not gain weight, because most people gain anywhere between 5 and 10 pounds during this time of year. So if you can get through Halloween to January 2nd and maintain your weight, in my opinion, that is a huge, huge win. So it's never a good idea to aim for perfection anyway, because you'll get into what Dr. Doug Lisle calls the ego trap. If you want to know more about what that is, just Google episode 161 of the Beat Your Genes podcast. But don't aim for perfection this time of year particularly, or in general. A saying that I love that I heard in the Optimal Health Institute is do your best and bless the rest. That really helps take out the stress. Oh, it rhymes. I didn't know this. And probably one of the most important tips when you're going out to eat in general, to a restaurant or a party, any place where it's not your usual food, where you're not in control of the food, where you didn't bring it or it may not be there, is instead of saying, I'm never going to eat anything off plan, which is completely unrealistic because, as they say in recovery, relapse is generally the rule. It's on the path to recovery. Just make a commitment to yourself, or if you have an accountability partner, or if you're in one of my groups, just make a commitment that if you're going to eat something off your plan, you promise to eat something healthy first. Now, I don't mean having a carrot stick or a celery stick. I mean starch, satiating starch, a sweet potato, potatoes, a serving of rice or beans, something really filling. Because the truth is when you eat some really delicious starch and get your belly full with that, because a lot of times you're just really hungry, you may still go off plan and eat something, but it's not going to have as much impact. And the truth is you may not want it as much, or you may not eat as much of it if you're full. Part of the problem is people have that diet mentality and I'm going to be good all day. And what they do is they forego the starch, and that always ends up with a binge. So just make a promise that, yeah, I might eat this, I might drink this, but first I'm going to eat something healthy. Just like when you were little, your mom said, you want to go outside and play? You do your homework first. You want dessert? You eat your entree first. It's the same thing here as a grown-up. You're going to eat something maybe off your plan? Fine, but you're going to eat something healthy first. It really does make a difference. And probably one of the most important tips, this will be like a little bonus tip, is make the holidays about something other than food. I get it. You have fond memories of grandma's pecan pie, and it maybe was a delicious pie when you were 7 years old, but I bet you it really wasn't the sickly sweet Caro syrup or the Crisco that was used in the crust that you really are craving. But it's the memories that you have, the love that you got from your grandma that got linked in with the pie. And we need to learn as a culture to have interactions and memories created that aren't just around food. So be the one in your family that starts a new trend. This year on Thanksgiving, I'm going to the movies. I'm going to see the new Tom Hanks movies about Mr. Rogers. I mean, we're still going to have Thanksgiving lunch, myself and some friends and my husband, but we're going to go to the movies. That's been our tradition. Maybe start playing a fun game, Monopoly, Scrabble, do something, go for a hike, but try to create traditions and memories that aren't merely around food. And you will, I promise, look forward to them as much as you do the special food. And the food will always be there. The people won't. So make it about the people and not so much about the food. What happens to a lot of us, especially if we're vegan, but I made it just for you and it's vegan. The tips that I've given you can definitely help, but often the biggest challenge are other people, or I call them the others. What do you do when someone comes up to you and says, but darling, I made it just for you and it's vegan? I don't know if they say it with that accent, but they might. Well, how do you say no to that? How do you prepare for these tough situations? Well, it's good to be prepared, but let me tell you a little story. And this is a story of two women. Now, one woman was struggling with her weight. She had a family history of obesity, grew up the fat kid, and food was her haven. As an adult, she somehow managed to restrain herself enough to stay below 100 pounds overweight. But despite all her discipline and good intentions, she couldn't say no and remained overweight for over 50 years. The second woman, on the other hand, is comfortable in her skin. She is nearing 60 years of age and in the shape of her life, and not in a million years would she be tempted by these addictive foods again. She likes to do things her way, not to offend others, but because she loves herself enough to watch out for herself. And any weight issues she has are a thing of the past, as she enjoys food to her heart's desire, as long as it's the right food. So who are these two women? Well, these two women are me, before and after hitting rock bottom. The truth is, before I hit rock bottom, I was always just one misstep away from going down that slippery slope again. And I did go down that slope more often than I care to admit. Do you need to hit rock bottom? I've always wondered if people have to hit rock bottom to experience a shift like I had. And I've talked to Dr. Lisle about this many, many times. The good news is you don't have to hit rock bottom to experience a breakthrough. Now, for me, my rock bottom was when my knee got crushed in an accident and I couldn't even walk. And I was in a wheelchair for many months, and I needed my husband to take care of me, even for my most basic bodily functions. And I was very ashamed and angry with myself because I couldn't believe what I had become. My severe food addictions had made me a burden to the man who'd been at my side all these years. I don't wish anyone to hit rock bottom, but let me tell you that when you do hit rock bottom, it's a long way up. An immersion can give you the breakthrough that you're after. So instead, if you immerse yourself in a supportive and healthy environment, you can get the breakthrough that you're after. So what do I mean by immersion? Well, it's merely surrounding yourself with people who are doing what you want to do. It's experiencing, even for only a short time, how you want to live. It's working on yourself with the support of those who have been there and done that. Many spent thousands of dollars on a dream vacation, hoping it would allow them to reset and take on their challenges. But from my experience, I can tell you that unless you work on solving your challenges, even the most luxurious of vacations may not help you. The right environment, the right people, and the right support will. You need to put yourself in the right environment with the right people and the right support. If you do that, you're setting yourself up for a major shift that will carry you through the next holiday season and beyond. Does that make sense? Ever since coming to the realization that an immersion experience can replace rock bottom, we have been working day and night to create an immersive experience for you, an experience that will give you the breakthrough that you're after. We're going to announce it on Black Friday, but I promised you earlier that you'd be the first to know about this opportunity because it's limited and because I really appreciate the time you took to join me today. I call this the ultimate Feel Fabulous experience. So what is it? Well, the Ultimate Feel Fabulous experience is a 3-day event that combines retreat, conference, and workshop. You will be in the right environment, have the right guidance, and the right support with hundreds of other fabulous people. So, who is it for? Well, I think this is for you if either you're stuck, either in achieving your health goals or your weight loss goals, recovering from a food addiction. Maybe you need a reset. If eating healthy continues to be a struggle, if you're afraid to relapse in the future, and mainly if you're tired of doing this alone. Each of you might have your own reason to attend, but whatever the reason is, I want you to know that this will be a safe, empowering, and loving environment where you can have your own breakthrough and you can write your own story. This can be a gift you give to yourself that will change your life. So what can you expect? Well, 7 incredible experts for one. And I had mentioned that this was going to be a loving experience. And if you know any of these 6 people to the right of me, you'll know that that is one of the reasons they were selected, because of their kind nature. In case you don't know who they are, to my right is Dr. Doug Lisle, the psychologist at both the McDougall Program and the True North Health Center. Dr. Columbus Batiste, who is the head of cardiology at Kaiser Permanente in Riverside. Dr. Steve Lewenda, who not only has his own remarkable weight loss story, but has helped thousands of patients in his Plants 180 program recover from obesity, food addiction, diabetes, and a remarkable story of a family member that I'm sure he's going to share. Tammy Kramer, who not only has her own weight loss story, but is going to do the practical and teach you how to make this lifestyle sustainable. Tammy is the queen of batch cooking. Heather Goodwin has lost over 200 pounds. And what she is the queen of resiliency, because no matter how many times she gets knocked down, she gets back up, and she is there to inspire you and give you hope, no matter how many times you've tried. And of course, Dr. Hans Diehl, who just is one of the most loving people you will ever meet. So you'll learn from these experts, and you will be able to actually implement their advice together right on the spot so that you can make that shift and return home empowered. So what can you expect? Well, you can expect Chef AJ food, and these photos were actually taken at this place that we're going to be talking about in a minute. These are my recipes prepared by Chef Carlos. We have the mango beet salad, I believe it's called Bodacious Beet Salad in my book, the red lentil chili, black bean mushroom chili, the cram muffin. He literally prepared 7 of my recipes. I thought I was eating my own food. He did it perfectly. He did it with love, and he was so interested in this way of eating. He actually read my book. So all the lunch and dinners are provided, 2 gourmet lunch and dinners. These are going to be all you can eat buffets. And for breakfast, we're just going to give you compliant oatmeal that you can eat in your room. And it'll all be following my way of eating and living. And the food's going to be fabulous because everything about this conference is going to be fabulous. Hence the name, Feel Fabulous. So one of the things we're really going to focus on, though, is self-love. This is not going to be your typical conference where it's speaker, 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 speaker. Every module, every lecture is going to feed on the one before. This is going to be very experiential. There's going to be a workbook. We are really going to do the work this time, not just sit there and listen and take notes. We're going to start each day with a very, very gentle morning yoga session led by Michelle Vakili, who is certified in yoga, several hundred hours. She actually teaches yoga at True North. We're going to start the day so that you can energize and be ready for the day. We're not going to do boot camps so that you have to go take a shower. We're going to do gentle yoga so that you can do it however you want to look for the conference, comfortable, fancy, whatever. And it's such a beautiful area that we're having it in. You can come early or stay longer, soak in the nature, culture, or the lifestyle. You know, the conference is going to start. It's not a conference. It's an experience, but it's going to start on Friday. Come Thursday, we can all go to there's something in Palm Springs called the Street Fair. It's fabulous. And if you stay later, you can do the tram. There's just a lot to do here. And it's such a serene place without traffic, without crowds. Now, one of the best things about this is it is a completely smoke-free hotel. Yes, there's a very small smoking section, which is outside in front of the hotel, which you probably will not be going to except for maybe the minute you walk in or leave. But it is a 5-star hotel. It is a Marriott hotel. It's called the Renaissance. It's in Palm Springs. It's about 5 minutes from the airport, and they have it's not a 24-hour shuttle, but the shuttle runs anytime the airport is open. Palm Springs is an international airport, by the way, so it does fly everywhere. And it's really a perfect place to reset, find yourself, and start feeling fabulous. And it also has the largest pool in all of the desert. And we have arranged for a very special discount for the rooms. So when is this extravagant event going to take place? And how do you get one of the spots? Well, the Ultimate Feel Fabulous experience is going to take place the weekend after Mother's Day, May 15th to 17th, 2020. So on Mother's Day, you can tell your family, kids, husband, this is what I want. I want to go take care of myself now. And even though it's a few months away, I wanted you guys to be the first to know about this because there's one little catch. It's really hard to get affordable rooms during what we call the season in the desert. And if we didn't have it in the season, it would be when it was like 118 and nobody would probably go. So only the first 200 people that register will be guaranteed the best price for rooms because the hotel can only hold a certain amount of rooms for us. And because this is such a popular hotel and such a popular time of year, they are going to book out fast. That's why we can only guarantee the best room price for the first 200 people that sign up. The difference between Las Vegas and Palm Springs is that Vegas has lots of rooms, but will never be able to give you this kind of experience. And the biggest complaint we have gotten for the past 3 years from doing the conference in Las Vegas is the smoke. People just couldn't deal with the smoke and the gambling and the drinking and the smoking and the drinking and etc. So this is a whole different type of experience. So we listened to all the feedback from all the people that came to our events that we did in Vegas, and we decided to take this step so that those who are lucky enough to come will have the best experience possible. And because you're here right now, you may be able to be one of those lucky ones. So if you go over to feelfabulousover40.com/live, you can read a little bit more about this experience and maybe even sign up if you are so inclined. I want you to know that there is a money back guarantee because you are here with us right now. We want to give you a chance to secure your spot with peace of mind. When you sign up on the page, you'll see a form that says that all tickets are non-refundable. But because you joined us for the webinar, we'll honor this promise to you. If you claim your ticket now, but find over the next few days that you can't make it, no problem. Just let us know by midnight Pacific time on November 28th, 2019, and we will refund your ticket. Because on Black Friday, we are going to announce this to the world, to our mailing list, to everyone. And because we have to commit to the hotel for rooms and costs, we can't offer a refund after Black Friday. But of course, you can always send someone in your place. The good news is that you can join right now. When you sign up today, you have a whole week head start to everyone else and peace of mind. Now, there is a super early bird special. Even though the hotel, food service, and experience are a huge step up compared to Vegas, we did not increase ticket prices. And as long as you act now, you will get the super early bird special. That is a bonus worth $197. What that means is we will give you the entire Real Truth About Weight Loss Summit, which sold for $197. Now, if you already own the summit, instead we'll give you a buddy pass so you can give this wonderful gift to anyone you care about to help them change their life as well. And I think it would make a fabulous, fabulous holiday present to someone. So if you want, go over to feelfabulousover40.com/live, claim your spot. Again, money back guarantee is until November 28th, 2019. And we hope to see you there. I thank you so much for being on this webinar. You will get the recipes as promised. And I want to thank everybody so much for being there. I hope you will make the recipes. I hope you'll enjoy them. I hope you'll consider attending the Feel Fabulous live experience. And I want to wish you and all your loved ones a very healthy, happy, and prosperous holiday season.